time and say what they gotta say. If you think it's a game, I commentate, I ain't gotta play. On in the morning, I own my opponent. My competition is not an issue, it's cotton tissue. Unconventional, controversial, convoluted, unconditional, undeterred and undisputed. Good morning.
What's going on, everybody? Hope everybody's having a good morning.
Good morning. This is the new Undisputed, and it is time to skip the BS. You can hit us up right now at #Undisputed.
They're all looking so good.
With your comments, pro or con. To my right are Keyshawn Johnson and Richard Sherman. To my left, not to be confused with left out, is the man of many, many words, Michael Irvin. I hope you guys have recovered from yesterday because this ain't the preseason anymore. I'm going to get a bump around the table.
Will Michael stand up today or no?
Buddy. All right. Are we ready to fly?
Come on now.
All right. In a moment, you will hear from Michael, Key, and Richard on our first topic. But first up, you will hear from me. Now it has come clear that Jerry Jones did not inform Dak Prescott that he was
Skip didn't like going last
Trey
yesterday.
Lance. Mike McCarthy says he didn't know either. I find that significant on both counts. If Dak were Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow or even Jalen Hurts, the owner or / general manager would have honored him by keeping him in the loop because they're partners. They're locked arm in arm heading into the future. But I don't believe Jerry is completely sold on Dak as his future. So when he suddenly had a chance to steal a 23-year-old third pick in the draft for a mere fourth-round choice, he jumped
it's silly
at it
not to do
without
that.
even getting off the very first negotiating phone call. No back and forth, just done.
Yep.
I believe Jerry believes what I believe, that Trey Lance's ceiling is higher than Dak. He just obviously, Trey Lance hasn't had enough experience, had enough reps in the NFL, nor has he displayed the NFL durability that he must going forward. But Jerry knows that for a mere fourth rounder, he could strike oil in a year or two. This was a
Especially if
steal
Dak
of a
gets
deal
hurt.
for Jerry, and I applaud him. This also shows that Dak and McCarthy have very uncertain futures in Dallas. So, Keyshawn, let's start with you. What do you read into Jerry not keeping Dak and McCarthy in this loop?
Well, everything you just said, I said yesterday for the most part, right? You just cleaned it up. Here's what I would say about
He just didn't have time to call Dak.
McCarthy.
You said we got to get it done.
He wasn't in the loop
now.
on when they were going to pull the trigger. But he certainly was in the loop at, oh, there's an opportunity to get a quarterback. He said it himself. I evaluated the process.
Yeah, I think he evaluated it, but he didn't know this was happening.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
But that's okay. You don't need to know, Skip. I don't need to tell you everything. I'm the boss.
Well, is he?
I'm the boss. I want you.
He might be the biggest boss.
I want you to take a look and see what you think. You like it? Okay, fine. I don't need to tell you we're going to do it. I don't need to tell you how much we're giving up. What is Mike McCarthy going to say? I love him. Oh, go get him for a second-round pick? No.
Okay.
He communicated the fact that they're
It's
going
true. It's a fourth-round
look at
pick.
him. So the coach
Like, there is no
evaluated,
immediate threat to
and now
Dak.
You allow the business people to do the business deal.
Okay.
That's the bottom line.
All right, let's quick look at San Francisco.
If Dak's so
John
scared,
Lynch
it's
do
just
a
'cause he
deal
knows he's
without
gonna get
getting
injured or
Kyle
something.
Right in the loop, like keeping him in the lockstep.
Kyle
No.
is not. But Kyle is not. I mean, John Lynch is not Jerry Jones, and Kyle is not Jerry Jones. They work lock and step. Kyle Shanahan, to a degree, is the de facto general manager.
Okay.
John Lynch is there because of Kyle Shanahan. That's why he's there. He's there because John Lynch didn't hire Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan basically hired John Lynch.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, you played for him, so you would know.
Hey, I don't know the
and
dynamic
they have something
there.
great working together.
And they got something great working together.
They work together really well.
Absolutely.
With that.
Jerry works for Jerry. Jerry works for the best interest of the Dallas Cowboys, and that is how he has always been for the last decade. The last trade that I remember, the significant trade,
Surprised the
was
Patriots
Herschel
didn't do it.
Walker 30 years ago. 30 years ago when he made that trade, which ended up being a king's ransom and helped lead to that dynasty you guys had. Great players. They got Emmett in that trade. They got.
By the way, Jimmy Johnson was right in the middle of that deal and actually took it to Jerry. But go ahead.
That was 30 years ago.
That's 30 years ago. But you talking about Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson, we talking about historians. We're not talking about Mike McCarthy being an all-time coach. No. And so if you're not an all-time coach, you're not in this decision-making process. You might be gone next year. Jerry will be there for the next, hopefully, 30 years. You know?
Right. And for me,
That's
with
wishful
this whole
thinking.
situation, I see how it reads, and you go through it.
Was Jerry like
Jerry
80,
said.
85?
Listen, Jerry's job, his GM job, is to improve the football team.
Absolutely.
And not just for right now, but also for tomorrow.
There really shouldn't be that much story around this
right
with
now is the quarterback.
Dak.
In the
Or any drama regarding this trade. It was a fourth-round pick.
Later on, I'll give you exactly what far is, that time span. In the far future,
Maybe the Cowboys were like the first team that were called from the 49ers.
He was on the telephone, and this opportunity came up.
Yes.
We all
I can't imagine how many other teams would have given a fourth-round pick for Trey Lance.
It's time sensitive.
Yes.
And you got somebody
Look at the draft last year. It was still
all
around
the time when people, hey, they got him in the
rumors of
building,
him for a
don't
first or
let him
second
out the
rounder.
building. This was the same situation. They had Trey in the building talking on the phone. At least they had the 49ers on the phone. And you make that deal for a fourth round. You don't have time to text that, to call McCarthy. You make that deal because you know for the future this can help the football team. He clearly said it's not right now.
I know.
It's for the future.
The only way it happens if Dak gets seriously injured.
With those guys before he
would you
And then-
immediately then pick up the phone and call Dak
And then Trey
Prescott
Lance comes in
say,
and plays
hey,
really well.
I had an opportunity here. It is no reflection on you whatsoever. He did not make that phone call.
After the fact?
Yeah, like a minute after the fact, before it hits Twitter or whatever it's called
doing
now.
a million different things. Skip, you know this. You know Jerry Jones is busy doing a million different things. Every time I make a transaction, I don't have to call the position to let them know whether it's my starting quarterback.
Yeah, I mean,
my
if they
starting
traded
receiver,
for,
my
like,
starting left tackle, I don't have to let
an
you know,
insanely
hey, I just
good-
picked
like,
up
if they
a backup
traded
that's
for-
going to help us in 2024, 2025.
We need to be
don't do
careful.
that.
Aaron
We need to be
Rodgers.
careful because I do
something, I don't
need
know.
the
So,
owner
a top-tier
or the
quarterback.
GM consulting with the coach to get
Then they'd
the
obviously
temperature
call Dak,
of
but
the
this is a
team.
fourth-round pick for a
And if I make
23-year-old
move, I'm
who has
saying
no direct
Trey
threat to Dak.
was not,
Unless Dak gets injured.
I'm worried about him pressing Dak for the job right now. So I didn't have to come to Mike McCarthy to say, hey, how will this affect the psyche of this team? Because I do want them consulting for that reason. I do want.
So you don't think Jerry Jones has a
when the
pulse?
opportunity presents itself like it did, and you get a fourth-round pick for a guy that San Fran gave up 3 first-rounders for.
Yes.
And those 3 first-rounders, man. No, listen.
But Mike,
we were just talking about cars. And
Could
how
have
they buy
Micah
him high
Parsons.
And you sell them low. They sold him so low you couldn't
Imagine that
pass
defense.
deal
Before
up.
we came
Right, before we came out. Right.
And what I'm saying,
So you couldn't pass the deal up.
but you also got to trust that your quarterback understands he's secure.
that's what I was going to ask you, though, Mike.
Dog, y'all know
You
these
can't-
quarterbacks. Y'all stop
we
playing, man. We
don't,
love them all, but y'all know
but
how
you can't
sensitive
be
they are.
that
We all
weak-minded
understand that.
point where
That's what we're saying the same thing.
I'm saying a third-string quarterback is coming in, and you're feeling so insecure that I got to call you and say, hey, don't worry, Dak.
No, and Dak isn't.
It's okay. He's not.
And Dak-
Jerry
right,
knows that. So Jerry's not calling him.
And Dak isn't. And Dak isn't.
Yeah, I
and,
mean,
and he didn't call. But I understand what Skip is saying. Now, if you're bringing in somebody that can threaten Dak right now,
That's a
or
different-
possibly,
but that's a different
then I'm with it.
that's
Now
a
we can
different
get to this ceiling stuff that Skip has laid on this table. What about how the ceiling?
Well, you can just imagine how high the unknown is when you don't know.
Football field. You see what I'm saying? He can run.
I mean, it could be Patrick Mahomes.
But you better not put him on the football field. He's gonna get hurt.
You gonna say he's not? You haven't seen him yet.
Yes, they did. They almost signed him.
And he had a high ceiling, but he better not get on that
But
football field and Ronaldo Nehemiah
you
talk.
basically alluded to the fact that
It'd be interesting if Dak gets
Jerry
injured.
needs
Do they
to
go with Cooper
communicate
Rush or do they go
Mike
with Trey?
McCarthy
Yes, he does.
to understand the pulse of the team.
Right.
You don't think
Because if
Jerry
Trey comes in and
understands the
goes
pulse of his own team?
5-1, 6-1, whatever
You
Cooper
know
went
that.
last year,
He's in
then
that locker room. He talks to
that
those
might be
players.
Trey's job.
He's there every single day. He knows the psyche of each individual player on that team, along with Stephen Jones, along with the other individuals in the executive office. So he doesn't need to necessarily go to them to communicate, I'm pulling the trigger on a particular position. That's my only thing.
Let me tell you why. in this one time, I would push back on that. We just made a change. You took out offensive coordinator Kellen Moore. Now he's gone. Mike McCarthy and Dak now is making this connection. When I talked to Dak, Dak said, this has been good, Mike. This has been the right decision. I really do believe it's been the right decision. So they're making a bond. I don't want Dak thinking now, oh, I thought you and I were doing something, Mike. Now you're around here behind the back with Jerry doing something. You see what I'm saying? That kind of psyche, I want us to be careful with while they're working on their bond. Come on, Keith.
No, if he's that weak,
anybody don't know weak mentally. Those words are going to be thrown around with Dak Prescott.
Keith
Sean said Dak Prescott weak mentally. In the context of what we're talking about, nobody's talking about weak mentally. Nobody said anything about being weak mentally.
What you worried about then? I'm the starting quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not worried about anything.
But I'm worried about the union between this new play caller and the player.
What Jerry is telling you is, look, I showed you neither one of y'all are included, so your relationship is fine. But I'm also saying
you're both
Mike
expendable.
McCarthy may not be here any longer, so I'm not going to sit here and bet long-term decisions with a coach who may not be here. What I'm saying is, if this isn't a Jordan Love situation where they drafted him in the first round and you feel threatened and you call a quarterback like, hey, you're fine. This is a draft for the future.
Skip, let me ask you this.
Let me ask you this.
Okay, go ahead, buddy.
What is the biggest problem, to your point about mental weakness, okay? What is Dak's biggest issue to me? Flimsy confidence. Why did he throw 15 interceptions and missed 5 games last year, tied for the league lead? Why was that? Because he is the quarterback of America's team. I think it is the most pressurized position in all of sports. It is difficult to play it from week to week. Look at his week-to-week inconsistency. He'll have a big game. He sent Tom Brady into the sunset, man, down in Tampa in that play. He was sensational. And he turns right around a week later, and he goes to San Francisco and lays a big old egg right out on a field that you played on. It is wildly erratic and inconsistent because the confidence is flimsy. So if Jerry wants to go forward into, like you're talking about, another 4 years of Dak Prescott, and it well may be, you better assure him that he is 1,000% safe, because you just went and got a kid who's been hurt twice in San Francisco, but 2 of the greatest offensive minds in the history of this game. You played for Kyle, and I know his father, Mike, very well.
Yeah, Trey is definitely a massive unknown.
Highest offensive IQ in the game right now, going on today. And they evaluated this kid who, remember, we're going back to 2019 at North Dakota State. They go 16-0 because he throws 28 touchdowns to 0 picks. And he throws for almost 3,000 yards, and he runs for another 1,100 yards. And then they played 1 pandemic game, and that's kind of the it of his experience so far. But the 2 great offensive mindset, we spent 3 first-rounders on him, and they threw in a 3rd, which is actually 1 notch above the 4th rounder that Jerry paid for him. And what Dak has to sit back and say, I had to read this on Twitter, because when this kid walks in the quarterback room, I'm looking sideways thinking, he's got a chance to take my job. Just a chance.
The best
only
thing
if
Dak Prescott
you get injured, Dak.
is continue to try.
I know
to
I keep
play
saying
good
that,
football.
but like,
you cannot sit around and worry about a guy that from 2 years from now that could potentially be playing. Take care of business right now, and all that's going to be erased. If they went out and signed Derek Carr, now from Dak Prescott, I'm like, wait a minute, this is a problem.
Yeah, that's a better comparison than Aaron Rodgers.
A guy that has not been on the field.
Hey, but Derek Carr, he'd be the starter, because you'd have to pay him to be your starter. You'd have to cut bait with that.
All that is what I'm saying. You're paying a guy that's not, you're bringing a guy in with not big money right now. They got to make a decision on him based on his
but remember, on money, Dak is about to run out of guaranteed money. After this year, it is over on guaranteed money.
No,
that's all this is about. That's all this is about.
But he's not about to run out of guaranteed money. Isn't relevant in this situation. Dead money is. Dead money is the issue. They are not going to eat $61 million next year by cutting him. I think you got to trust Dak's confidence. You got to trust Dak's competitiveness.
Yes.
They bring a kid in. This may spark that to go to another level.
We'll see.
You can't
assume
he's going to be flimsy and he's got to worry about this, because if you're worried about everybody else coming in, you're not the quarterback they need in the first place, and he is.
That's basically what I'm saying.
Let's get it straight now. No, nobody here, I'm certainly not, and I hope you guys aren't saying that Dak is worried about Trey Lance. I was speaking from the standpoint of Dak's and Mike McCarthy's relationship. That's the only place I see anything.
But how does what Jerry did got anything to do with their relationship?
Because I don't want Dak to believe when he's trying to make a union with Mike McCarthy, because it's his first time play calling, that, oh, Mike, you're behind my back.
There's no behind the back.
Right. But if I'm trying to,
I think in his heart of hearts, Dak thinks this was a good deal for the Cowboys.
Now I'm going to think, and if we think he's that sensitive,
it's a 4th-round pick. He's 23. Dak's like 30, 31. He's in his prime.
By the same geniuses that you just talked about so eloquently that drafted him, that saw that ceiling, those same geniuses couldn't reach down inside his kid and pull out his king to put it on the football field. They let him go for a 4th round.
Okay, but what happens to the genius?
They let him go, but last year
$1,000,000,000
he was going to start for the 49ers over Jimmy G and Brock Purdy. He was
irrelevant. He's the
clear-cut starter. They're trying to ship Jimmy G.
Purdy a lot at Iowa State. I saw none of this. This is why he became available, is because Brock Purdy came out of the stars, like fell out of heaven into their lap. When has that ever happened like that? As a rookie?
Yeah, the last pick. The dead last pick.
It's a beast 7 game. It's a beast 7 game.
It's a beast 7 game.
Yeah, 7-0. It's not like it's 1 or 2 games.
Michael Irvin, Hall of Famer Michael Irvin.
It's 7 in his career. If Trey Lance had those 7, now I would be worried. Now you hear what I'm saying. If Trey had those 7, I would be worried.
Playmaker. You done been around this league a
perception.
long time, and so have you, Skip.
It's like if Cooper Rush, or if Trey goes 6-1, like Cooper Rush did.
How many of them?
Not many.
People don't look at Cooper Rush like they do Trey Lance.
Trey Lance, not many.
Oh, I done seen a lot.
Like if Trey did that last year, he'd have a deal right now on a team as a starter.
But
Cooper Rush doesn't.
No.
I'm just saying.
My guy did.
Just a backup.
He's so great. You saw RG3 go through something like that.
Well, he got hurt.
But he got hurt. And he does such a great job.
Totally different.
But you don't see young guys like what Tre Lance did, or specifically talking about Dak Prescott's come in and go on that kind of win streak.
But here's what I'm gonna tell you. Dak Prescott went from wire to wire.
The team is stacked, though.
Yeah.
Okay?
No, he didn't.
He went from wire to wire. What do you mean? He started the beginning of the season to the end.
I hear you.
That's wire to wire.
That's wire. That's fair.
You're talking about his rookie year.
Yes, his rookie year. So eventually, what did Jerry and them say to their good friend, Tony Romo? Yeah, we love you, Tony. Why don't you just sit tight a little bit, hold the baseball cap?
We got to let you go.
We gotta let you go.
Okay, but remember, in the locker room at Pittsburgh that year, is about 2/3 of the way through, Tony Romo walked in the locker room after the game, after they won at Pittsburgh, because Zeke went wild. It was more Zeke than Dak. And Tony Romo conceded. He told Steven.
Tony was a lot older, though, wasn't he?
Done, man.
Yes.
It's his team.
Right. But my point
Pretty sure
on
it was.
the Brock Purdy thing is, I believe Brock Purdy in this system with Kyle Shanahan and them could be the same guy that we saw. But what if he's not? That's the only thing I say, because the book is out on him. You're a defender. You're a defensive player. You know, Richard Sherman, when you get the book, I ain't talking about 7 games. I'm talking about 7 games that I now have to study your butt in the offseason.
Hold on.
That's all I'm trying to give you.
Hold on. It's not the book on the player that matters in this situation. It's the book on Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan is the puppet master of this Brock Purdy offense. Yeah, Brock Purdy has yet to start a game and finish a game and lose it.
Right.
He has every game he started.
You're not listening.
I'm listening, but I want to make this point. Every game he started and finished, he has won. In the playoffs, against good teams, against some great teams, he's going to continue that.
This is why Skip went first.
For this offense, he has a little bit of flair in him. He got a little Mahomes, a little sidearm, just a little point. He's got things that are intangible that work really well with what Shanahan does. And to his point, you talk about pulling greatness out of players. You talk about what he couldn't pull out of Trey Lance. Well, he couldn't keep him on the field long enough to pull him out.
I know, that's the thing. He just didn't play. He played one full game in a monsoon.
Like a franchise quarterback for 7 games.
But Keyshawn is saying better be careful, because if you are going down the right path because he's wrong, if Brock Purdy is wrong, then the two geniuses are going to look like the two biggest fools ever,
So let me
right?
They already kind of do.
Okay, let's go through. When Dak came in, Dak won all those games early on. He won all those games early on.
Yes.
Now, you go back to Tony Romo. Now, any mistake Tony Romo makes, the team is like, what did we do? Because that other quarterback was winning.
Yes.
Once you go to Brock Purdy and he wins all of those games, what are you going to do? Go to Tre Lance?
Yeah, he's 7-0.
Trey out the way. You can't go back to Tre Lance after he has done what you just talked about. Every game he started, he has won. How do you explain to everybody else on that team, we're going back to Trey? So Tre Lance now has to go so we can focus on what he's doing.
They explained it early in the offseason. If you remember,
It's similar to like Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi last year. I mean,
he'd certainly be our starter.
New England was calling for Bailey to just play over Mac. They were cheering Zappi in the stands.
I understand. No, I understand.
And I'm surprised it happened with Cooper Rush a little bit, but
Look, he's got to stay healthy, number one.
No doubt.
Okay, the dude obviously
people definitely don't
has some
view
talent.
Brock
Else
Purdy
he
and
wouldn't
Cooper
have-
Rush
they
the same.
they wouldn't
Even
have
though the
given up
difference in the
3
record is
points
1
for
loss.
getting-
The same thing I'm saying.
No, you're not letting me finish though, playmaker.
This is like my wife, man. It's like I want to say we're saying the same thing, baby.
Did you have to deal with this in Dallas, man? Did you have to deal with him covering him in Dallas?
He
like
was
this?
quiet in Dallas. He never said a word.
We may be saying the same thing, but we getting there different.
Michael Irvin can't contain
Okay?
himself.
I want you to really take
Surprised
a
he's
step
not up on the
back
table.
and think about what I'm saying. When you play 7 games is great in the middle of the year. You go on a historic run.
Wins.
Okay, them dudes with the gray hair, with the dandruff on their shoulders, them defensive coordinators that sit up all night trying to figure out how to stop you.
Right.
They got the book down.
They gonna come up
and
with
you
something.
say to me, you say, well, the book really is Kyle Shanahan.
Right.
What is Kyle Shanahan doing? He's running the same things with him. He's doing his strengths. Okay, well, the things that Brock Purdy can do from a strength standpoint.
Yeah.
So now, you look at that as a defensive coordinator, it's the same thing. They're 3-by-1, they're doing this, they're doing that. Nothing changes. That book is now there for those defensive coordinators to make those adjustments. All I'm saying is let's not act as though.
How long does it take to make a book,
the
though?
San Francisco 49ers on a
Like,
ride.
I understand the first 2-3 games not being able to figure them out, but it's 7 now.
Book after week 1, they didn't do that. 2 weeks.
It's a decent sample size.
Okay, no, you know that's
If he
not
starts
true.
4-5-0,
You know that's not true.
that'd be crazy.
Thank you.
And they're going to get better. But
We are acting that would make sense for a receiver. For a running back, for a scheme, for like, hey,
This dude
this
knows
dude
the
is
system.
just playing the game.
This
He's
system.
throwing the drift. He's handing off outside zone.
And what
he's
Sherman's
handing off
saying
mid zone.
is this guy, and what makes him so dangerous is he plays the whole system.
Okay.
Now, we can focus in on a Trey Lance when you specialize him within the system. But when you're playing the whole system, that's why we value this.
We'll be here together
This
all
the
year
one
long.
issue.
Yeah, I know,
the
I
one
know.
issue we have in the NFL. There are 2 types of talent. There's talent shoulders down, and we always evaluate that and love to look at it and say, oh my God, look at the ceiling. But there's also talent shoulders up that we got to make sure we start paying more attention to. And Brock Purdy, talent shoulders up, it's unbelievable. It's just
Okay.
what it is.
If you look at Kansas City right now, if they had had a shot at Trey Lance, and for whatever reason they said, we want to just add him to our stockpile, to our repertoire, then I think it goes to Clark Hunt, the owner. He's going to call Patrick Mahomes and just say, hey, this is no big deal. But the truth is, the more I've thought about Clark Hunt calling Patrick, he doesn't even have to call him because nobody's even going to doubt it. This is Dak, who shares one thing with Mike McCarthy right now. They're connected as the play caller and the quarterback, but they also share the hot seat. I don't care what you say.
Yeah.
Jerry is looking at both of them right now saying, show me a little bit, maybe a whole lot more this year, because you better. Right.
And I like that, and I like that part. I don't mind if Dak knows. All right, we're both on the hot seat. I'm okay with that. I do mind if Dak believes. Are you behind my back with Jerry doing something? Because that doubts our year this year. And I don't
agree.
want it, and it ain't going to douse the year this year because we got somewhere to go.
You need at least one guy to trust in there.
He is going to get 4 years. Because after we win the Super Bowl this year, you think we're going to cut a Super Bowl champion and he's going to get another 3 years in that new money? Now we can move.
Yeah, he's getting new money if he wins the Super Bowl, that's for sure.
If they win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we are going to revisit this topic a little later.